Since drafting Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown, the Boston Celtics have been a consistent contender to win an NBA title. Over the years, the Celtics have rebuilt their roster in many different ways, trying to put the best possible supporting cast around their two-star wings. And since 2016 and 2017, when the Celtics drafted Tatum and Brown consecutively, the Celtics have been one of the best teams in the NBA, undeniably. They have found great success since drafting their star duo. But each year there has been a noticeable flaw on their roster that has prevented them from bringing home an NBA title. This is not the case for this year's Celtics team. The 23-24 Celtics are as close as we will get to a perfectly built modern basketball team. They are the culmination of the 6-year run the Celtics have had with Tatum and Brown. So, while I think the Heat and the Nuggets are the two teams that have the best chance to knock off the Celtics in the playoffs, neither of them will. This Celtics team is simply inevitable, and they are going to go on and win this year's championship. This team is just too supremely talented on both ends of the floor. They have elite chemistry. They know what it takes to win in the playoffs because of their past successes and failures in the playoffs. This is their time. This is the Celtics' time to win a championship. They're going to dominate throughout the rest of the regular season. They're going to finish with at least 65 wins. And after this run is over, Tatum and Brown will gain a new respect throughout the entire league from fans, media, and other players. This will solidify the Tatum and Brown era. And after this year is over, they will be recognized as the best duo in the NBA. And once it's all said and done, this team, the Celtics team this year, will be recognized as one of the greatest teams in the history of the NBA because of their supreme dominance and their supreme talent. And going forward, the only question surrounding the Celtics team will be how many more championships can this team win with this core. This Celtics team this year is simply too good for the rest of the NBA. There is no stopping them. Okay, so when discussing and breaking down why the Celtics have been so dominant this year and have been so good the past 5, 6, 7 years, you have to start by talking about the front office. The Celtics have the best front office in the NBA, and they have for a while now. And the general management and the whole front office is the number one reason why the Celtics have been so consistently good throughout the entire Tatum and Brown era. And that's because of a lot of things. To start off with, no player in Boston is safe from being traded. No. It doesn't matter how beloved you are by the city, how good you are, what you've done for the city, what you've done for the organization. If you can be used as a pawn, as a chess piece in a trade that will, or in any sort of move that will give the Celtics a better chance of winning a championship, the front office and the general manager will pull the trigger and make that move. You see Kevin Garnett and Paul Pierce, two of the best Celtics players in the last 30 years. Paul Pierce has had the best Celtics career overall since Larry Bird. Pierce and Garnett, along with Allen, brought the Celtics to the 2008 championship. And in the summer of 2013, Pierce and Garnett got traded. And they got traded for a lot. They got traded for the assets that led to the Celtics being able to draft Tatum and Brown. And the summer of 2017, famously, Isaiah Thomas coming off of one of the most improbable years in modern NBA history, a 5'9" guy averaging 30 points a game, having an unbelievable playoff run, dropping 50 points on the birthday of his late sister. Amazing year. The whole city of Boston loved him. Over the summer, a better deal was on the table in order to make the Celtics more viable championship contenders, and it involved trading Isaiah Thomas, and Danny Ainge took it. Because in Boston, it's all about winning a championship. And this is one of the reasons why the Celtics front office just operates differently than any other team when it comes to urgency and aggressiveness. And it's because of the sports culture in the city of Boston. And this is inarguable. Since the turn of the century, Boston has been the most successful sports city as a whole by far, from all the major four sports teams, Celtics, Bruins, Patriots and Red Sox, the city of Boston has had by far the most success out of any other sports city in America. So what does that do? That creates crazy expectations and crazy urgency from the fans, the media, and ownership. And especially when a team is really good, like the Celtics have been for a while, and are expected to be really good because the Celtics are the most successful franchise in the history of all the Boston sports franchises. So because of the combination of all those things, the Celtics front office has to be aggressive. Brad Stevens has to be aggressive in order to keep his job, in order to keep the fans happy, in order to keep the media happy. The expectation in Boston is championship, championship, championship. And it's higher expectations in the city of Boston than any other sports city in America. So this gives the Celtics the edge, and it gives the general management an incentive to be extra aggressive. And that involves making cold-blooded decisions like trading away Isaiah Thomas because the package is too good to pass up on. Okay, so now I'm going to talk about why this team works so well, dive a little into the X's and O's on the court, why this team is so dominant. So, as I mentioned, I think that this is the best starting five the NBA has seen since the KD Warriors. I think the only other contender for a better starting five would be the current Denver Nuggets, and that's just because of how well they all fit together and because of how good Jokic is. But the Nuggets starting five as a whole isn't nearly as talented as the Celtics are, so I think the Celtics starting five edges them out a little bit. Kristaps Porzingis absolutely unlocks this team. He is the X factor for the Celtics, and he is what separates this Celtics teams from all past Celtics teams in the Tatum and Brown era. Jrue Holiday, who's obviously the second key addition over the summer, he is great. But the Celtics have had Marcus Smart throughout the whole Tatum and Brown era, and Smart was really just a worse version of Holiday. Holiday brings the same stuff that Smart brought to the Celtics, but just at a more elite level, at a more enhanced level. Like Holiday is a much better shooter, especially from the corner, of course, like 65% three-point shooter from the corner. Smart was great for the Celtics, but Holiday just brings the same stuff, but just at a better level, at a higher level. Similarly, Derek White, who's been unbelievable this year, absolutely been a breakout player this year, and he's much better this year than he was the past 2 years for the Celtics, even though he was great the past 2 years. It's the same kind of stuff. Derek White is just giving you a better version of what he has been giving you. So Porzingis, so the Celtics have had, the stuff that Jrue Holiday brings and the stuff that this year's version of the Derek White brings, just not to the level that they have. But Porzingis brings something that the Celtics have never had in the Tatum and Brown era. And that's a big man who is an elite shot creator. And Porzingis isn't just a regular big man. He's 7'2", 7'3", very strong, very mobile, and very athletic for his size. He's averaging 20 points per game on 51% from the field and 37% from three. And he has also been absurdly efficient and effective from the post this year. He's averaging a field goal percentage of 61% on post-ups, and he's averaging 1.3 points per post-up, which is by far the best in the league out of all the high-volume post players in the NBA. For context, Nikola Jokic, who's the best overall post player in the NBA, is averaging 1.14 points per post-up. So having a big man like Porzingis on this roster who's able to stretch the floor opens up so much more for every other player on the Celtics roster in a way that they hadn't been able to do before. The Celtics play a very free-flowing style of offense, and the Celtics are at their best. They are at their best this year, they're at their best last year, and the year before that, when they're driving and kicking, when their best guards and wings are attacking from the three-point arc, driving in, and passing to each other. When Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum, and Derek White are doing this, it's virtually impossible to guard. And the Porzingis addition allows the Celtics to do this at such a high level because they can run the five-out offense, which is the set you start with usually before you start driving, kicking, and attacking the basket. Five-out is simply just having your five players start from behind the arc, no one inside, just five out. So the Celtics are at their best when they're running that style of offense. And with the Porzingis addition, this allows them to run that without having to sacrifice anything. So over the past couple of years, when the Celtics wanted to play their 5-out offense, get their most, prepare their most deadly offensive set, they would have to sit Robert Williams, who was their starting center. They couldn't run really 5-out at the highest level with Rob Williams because he wasn't a three-point threat, he wasn't a jump shooting threat at all. So in order to run 5-out, they would have to sub him out, and in doing so, their defense would not be as good. So they would have to sacrifice something. The Celtics would have to sacrifice something over the past couple of years if they wanted to run the 5-out offense. Porzingis brings the best of both worlds. He is obviously a clearly far superior offensive threat compared to Robert Williams, and he's not quite the defender that Rob Will is, but he has been very, very good on defense this year. He's averaging 2 blocks and a steal per game. And he also just brings a great interior presence defensively because of his size and strength. And most importantly, he's absolutely been committed to the defensive end of the series. He gives effort on the defensive end night in and night out. So when you have the ability to run out Tatum, Brown, Holiday, Porzingis, and White on the court, not only can you play your 5-out offense without having to sacrifice anything, that's your best offensive and defensive lineup at a time. So your starting 5 is just your best possible lineup for every situation. That just gives you such an advantage over every other team, not to mention how skilled those guys are. Because when you have those 5 guys on the court, there will always be at least 2 mismatches on the court at once because teams simply don't have the personnel to match up with that talent level. Tatum, Brown, Holiday, White, and Porzingis is just an absurdly talented starting 5. Every one of those players can create their own shot, and every one of those players is a 3-point threat. There's no other team in the NBA that has all 5 guys that fit so well at every different position and have those kind of skills. It's just unbelievable, and it's impossible to guard. And this is kind of continuing on that point. The Celtics team is just flatly better. Than every team in the NBA except for the Nuggets. Not just talent-wise, just overall better. Chemistry-wise, talent-wise, of course. Experience, this team is just so much better than every team except for the Nuggets. And I'll say maybe the Bucks in the regular season because of Giannis and how good he is and how physically imposing he is. So besides those 2 teams, the Celtics are just so much better than every other team in the league. Also, the Celtics are obviously title favorites right now. And that is kind of an interesting situation. The Celtics are title favorites, but they also have a chip on their shoulder, I meant to say. And that's a very unique situation because most teams in the position that the Celtics are with the amount of talent and their record don't get the ability to play with a chip on their shoulder because most teams who are this good and this favored have already won a championship. But because the Celtics haven't won a championship yet, they get a lot of criticism from the national media, Boston media, and fans all across the country. All that, everyone in the basketball world gives the Celtics a lot of criticism, really, outside of Boston and including Boston media. So it's really everywhere. So that's a really dangerous combination when you have the team, by far the best team in the league, by far the most talented team in the league, and they're able to play that nobody believes in this card. I think that's not going to end well for every other team in the league when you give a team this talent that kind of motivation. This team is also by far the best home court team in the league. They're 32-3 at home. The Celtics actually weren't that great at home last year, especially in the playoffs, and that was one of the reasons they didn't get over the hump. But this team, if you're playing the Celtics in Boston, you might as well pack it up because you have basically no chance of winning. This team is dominant at home, and the home court advantage is the best in the NBA right now by far. This team has also underrated playoff experience. I think it's something that doesn't get talked about enough, but obviously Tatum, Brown, Horford, Holiday, and White have all been on deep playoff runs, whether it's with each other or separately. Holiday's won a championship, obviously. Tatum and Brown have been to the finals along with White together, and Horford's just a grizzled vet, really. He's the oldest guy on the team, so he kind of brings that veteran stability. But yeah, all these reasons all these things are the reasons the Celtics have been so unbeatable throughout this whole regular season. Everything is just totally lining up for them, and they have been just so dominant compared to every team in the NBA thus far, and it's going to continue.